All right. Hello again, Avengers, and welcome to another exciting daily vlog. This is Daily Vlog 2025, number 233. And today, we got some major Critical Role announcements. Let's just dive into this. In the comments below, I will have both the the Critical Role announcement where they announced all the details for Campaign 4, and we'll mention this in a little bit, but I'm also going to link to the video I did about West March's campaigns and the original West March campaign. So, yeah. Sorry. It has been a day already. So, Critical Role made their Campaign 4 announcement. I'm actually kind of surprised with the fact that we learned just about everything about the campaign. The only thing that we didn't learn is the actual characters themselves, but we know the world, we know some of the kind of basic plot they're going to be dealing with. We know the full cast, which is massive. We also know the system, like it's everything. So, I took notes, and again, that's a really big deal. My brain doesn't like notes. It causes me, I kid you not, it causes me to have panic attacks. So that's how important this is. So let's just go over the stuff that they talked about. The first thing they announced, it's D&D, and wow, as right before I started recording this, I decided to go over to the Daggerheart subreddit to see what people are doing, and oh my word, people are acting like they just admitted to killing puppies or something like that. Like it's nonsense how upset people are that this isn't going to be a Daggerheart campaign. It was never going to be a Daggerheart campaign. Daggerheart isn't designed to tell stories this way. It's not what it's for. So obviously, I know a lot of people are very, very upset about it. They're trying to do damage control in the Daggerheart subreddit. If you are like genuinely upset or angry or just depressed, that is not Daggerheart. Your feelings are your feelings. Don't let anyone ever tell you that you're not allowed to feel the things that you feel. That being said, your feelings are your feelings. That means that you are allowed to feel anything that you want, and you should. But that does not mean that you have to tell other people what feelings they're supposed to be feeling about this. And you're definitely not allowed to get upset at people because their feelings about something are different than your feelings about something. Like I said, I've been saying it for a long time. It was going to be D&D. I had mentioned before, it's like, well, they use GM, so I think it's possible they might try something else. And I also said that would be a massively bad business decision for them. But it was theoretically possible. I even kicked out an idea, well, maybe it might be Daggerheart, which again, I thought would be a bad idea. But they might have been able to partner up with Demiplane. Which, fun fact, they technically still could partner up with Demiplane because Demiplane has 5th edition character sheets that work with 2024 D&D. So anyway, going back to the announcement, they announced officially it is going to be Dungeons and Dragons. Again, the Daggerheart subreddit is losing their minds. They're feeling betrayed. They're not, because at the exact same time that they announced D&D for Campaign 4, they also announced we're still going to be doing not just Daggerheart, but we're going to be playing a lot of different systems. And they have for years. Not every single thing Critical Role has done has been Dungeons and Dragons. Mercer makes up his own systems. They have played Paranoia. They played Feast of Legends, even though you can't find that online anymore. You probably can find it online, but they took it down from their Twitch channel and everything. That, by the way, one of the funniest things I've ever seen in my life. They've played Daggerheart. They've played Candela Obscura. They've played Dread. They're going to continue to play different systems and do different things. And they specifically mentioned Age of Umber Season 2 is going to be on there. They're partnering with other content creators to create other Daggerheart live play series, which is very, very cool. Hey, Critical Role, you know, I'm getting closer and closer to 1,000 subscribers. Maybe you want to partner with me, and I can do some pretty cool Dagger. It's not going to happen, guys. But Chris Perkins, my friend Chris Perkins, I know you watch all of my videos because we're friends, and so obviously you watch all of my videos. So yeah, if you want to talk to, you know, your buddy Matt and your buddy Jeremy and convince them, I want people to just say good things about me, and I want to be connected to Critical Wall. Okay. So yeah, just because Campaign 4 is going to be D&D, which again was the best decision for the company, and aside from the fact that they keep calling Brennan the GM instead of DM, I was fairly certain that's what it was going to be. Again, I thought it was possible they could do other things, and I made entire videos about it, but in the back of my head, I'm like, it's going to be D&D. They revealed the world, which, fun fact, the video was not technically the first revelation of the world. There was this strange alternate reality game thing that they did that involved like Brennan's Instagram or something, and if you figured something out, you eventually could figure out that the name of the new world was Aram, or Aramon. Yeah, Aramon. Which is mind-blowingly cool. I would love to see them do more stuff like that. To be perfectly honest, I would love to see them do more stuff like that related to Candela Obscura. Simply because Candela Obscura technically takes place in a version of the real world. It's not the real world, but it's adjacent to it. So I think that would be very cool. But anyway, so we know about the world. Sorry, I think I got something in my peripheral vision. I think it's just a hair, but it's driving me nuts. So, we know about the new world. It's called Aramon, and Brennan goes into a lot more detail later on in the video, so I'll go into it there. But as far as I can tell, it is not connected to Exandria in any way, shape, or form. So this is a complete brand new starting off point that it seems like Brennan has had the ability to kind of build entirely on his own with some help from other people that we will talk about in a second. So the next big announcement, they talked about the cast. I'm actually going to count here because I haven't actually done a full count. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, technically 14 people will be playing if you count Brennan Lee Mulligan. And the only one that I don't recognize doesn't have a Wikipedia page, the bastard. All right, so I'm going to go through the list. They're in alphabetical order because that's the way they listed them in the thing. So, the full cast for Campaign 4 for Critical Role is Laura Bailey, Luis Carrazzo, which I spelt wrong, Robbie Damon, Abria Iyengar, Taliesin Jaffe, Ashley Johnson, Matthew Mercer, Whitney Moore, Liam O'Brien, Marisha Ray, Sam Riegel, Alex Ward, Travis Willingham, and Brennan Lee Mulligan. So, they have, compared to the original core cast, they've got 1, 2, 3, for 5 new players and a new DM. That's a pretty big deal. Let's break down the specific people. So again, Luis Carrazzo, again, is the one person that I am not familiar with. They apparently were in Exandria Unlimited, and they've done some voice work for Legend of Vox Machina. And they were apparently in their Candela Obscura playthrough. I'm trying to see. Oh, he was in LA by Night. So yeah, he's worked with Hyper RPG. He as far as I can tell, he apparently is a live player as opposed to like an actor, like a lot of the other people are here. So yeah, that's Luis Carrazzo. Robbie Damon, we all know, we all love. He's a voice actor. He does a shit ton of stuff that I didn't realize that he does. But he was part of the cast in the beginning of Kick It Campaign 3 and then went off and had his own live plays series for a little bit. And everybody loves him. It's not shocking that he's back in any way, shape, or form. Abria Iyengar, again, I have made videos talking about Abria. Again, my personal issue with Abria is she is very inexperienced, but people treat her as if she is extremely experienced, and that's a really, really bad combination because she has a lot of just talent, but not a lot of skill. And so it's caused her to make some mistakes when she's been in the GM chair. It's caused her to make some mistakes when she was a player. The fact that now she is going to be a regular member, and we'll talk about exactly what that means in a little bit here, technically could be a very good thing for her. I think it's going to be rough, especially when they first introduce all the player characters, because again, I don't think Abria has the experience or the skill to understand how to work with such a large group. I think Abria works significantly better in small groups where because she tends to be a bit of a spotlight hog. So once they break off into the 3 groups, more on that in a little bit here, she'll probably do well. And she could use this as a phenomenal way to get that experience and that skill if she's willing to kind of sit back and listen to these other extremely skilled live players and learn. Again, thus far, her response is anytime something has gone wrong, it's everybody else's fault except mine, which is a really, really bad mindset to have. But, and this is something that you kind of learn as an actor, if you have a bad actor in a cast of a bunch of amazing actors, they can't help but improve. There's really only 2 ways that can turn out. Either the bad actor gives the best performance they've ever given, or they drag down the entire production. And it's the more like really, really skilled good actors you have, the less chance that the bad actor is going to be able to do that. Now, I'm not saying that Aubrey is a bad actor or anything like that. I'm saying she has made mistakes before and she's never taken accountability for them. But she's going to be surrounded significantly more long term by some really, really skilled people. And you can't help but learn from them. Whether you retain any of that knowledge, that's entirely up to you. But I think we're going to see some massive growth as a live player for Abria specifically. So, yeah. Moving on to the other one, Whitney Moore. Whitney Moore is probably one of the coolest people on the planet. She was pretty heavily involved with Geek and Sundry near the end. For their Twitch channel. She had a show on Alpha called Trashtopia. She was a regular guest member on One Shots and other things that they did. And yeah, she's not like she's an actress as well. She hasn't done a ton of this stuff, and she does a lot of hosting gigs. If I remember correctly, I think at one point she worked for SourceFed for a little bit. She's done other kind of YouTube hosting style gigs. And again, she's got a decent amount of experience and friendship already with the Critical Role cast. So I'm really, really excited to see Whitney Moore back. Because again, she's love Whitney Moore. This is so much. And then the other new face that we didn't know about thus far is Alex Ward. Alex Ward is crazy. And what I mean by that is, I'm going to actually look them up real quick because they're just brilliant. Do they have a Wikipedia page? Of course they don't. Why would that be a thing that they can do? No, there's a football person that has a Wikipedia page, but not them. All right, so Alex Ward, if I remember correctly, is, yeah, I believe they're an actor. If I remember correctly, I don't know why I think this, but I thought they they specialized in referred to it as monstrous acting. They play a lot of monster-like characters. Zombie, like good example. Army of the Dead, they played a vault shambler. In The Cabin House, they played a demon. In Escape the Night, they played a mummy, a demon dog, and the man with no name. Like, they are they're a physical actor that plays kind of subhuman or non-human characters, which is exceptionally difficult to do. So that in and of itself is really cool. Also, they have a pretty incredible pedigree as far as live play stuff. They were on the original, I think it's LA by Night when it first launched on Geek and Sundry's Twitch. They were on that, and they continued with LA by Night when it moved over to, I think, Penny Arcade. And they've done a bunch of other things. Again, they were in Exandria Unlimited. They were in Candela Obscura. They were in New York by Night. They've done some one-shots and stuff like that. So they've done a lot of really, really cool stuff. And he's just a really, really cool actor in general. I enjoy a lot of the stuff that Alex does. And so, yeah, super, super excited about that. And then, obviously, Brennan. So after they announced the cast, they went and explained how this campaign was going to work. And the way they described it is this is going to be a West Marches campaign. Now, if you're not familiar with that term, again, there is a video linked in the description where I talk about what a West Marches campaign is. And if I remember correctly, that should also have a link to the original West Marches campaign blog posts, which still exist on the internet if you want to read them. They're brilliant. They're absolutely amazing. I highly recommend you check them out. The idea of a West Marches campaign nowadays is effectively you have a campaign world, and the way a normal West Marches campaign works is you have a pool of players and then a pool of DMs. And the DMs will go, okay, I'm running an adventure here. Who wants to play? And then people would kind of volunteer, and then they'd go out, and then they'd come back. And you basically had the chance of really never having the same party twice, or it being a very rare occurrence, because it was just whoever was available. Now, the original West Marches campaign was a lot more structured than that. But that's the idea, is you have this kind of wilderness that the party can explore, and then different parties get to go out and do things. What Brennan described is not technically a pure West Marches campaign, but it takes heavy inspiration from it. Effectively, what's going to happen, and this is, I can't remember if they outright said it this way, or they just implied it and I inferred it. But what it sounds like is the first episode or the first few episodes are going to have the entire 13-person cast there, so that you can get introduced to all their characters, and they can start, learning, and the characters can get to know each other. And then they're going to be split up into 3 different groups, which with 13 people, that effectively means 2 groups of 4 and 1 group of 5, more likely than not. Which is a really, really nice size. It also means that any group can have a guest player and not feel overwhelmed by it. So that in and of itself, interesting. It's a new world for them to explore, which is going to really help with the kind of West Marches idea. However, it does feel like this isn't so much a West Marches campaign, because again, when you watch the video that I made about it, or if you just read the thing, the entire point of a West Marches campaign is it's player driven. The players are generally the ones that are going, hey, I want to be a part of this. They will contact DMs and go, hey, we want to go here. So let's do that. And then the DM would go out, okay, I'm doing this, who's going with me? But it was a very, very player-driven campaign. The players decided when they were going. This sounds like a very traditional Critical Role style of a thing, where there's an overarching plot that has been written, and then the players get to kind of interact with it. But it's not going to be quote-unquote player-driven, where the players just look at the map and go, I want to go there. Let's get a party together. So in that aspect, it's not a true West Marches campaign. However, I mean, it's close enough. Most people, when they refer to West Marches now, don't refer to that actual aspect of it, despite the fact that in the write-up it says that's the most important part of a West Marches campaign, is it has to be player-driven. Yeah. So then Brennan goes into the idea of, well, how do you separate the parties? You just randomize them? Do you do it? And basically what he said, well, he thought what would be cool is, what if we just split up the parties based on what kind of gameplay they enjoy. And he basically created 3 parties that have 3 names. They are the Soldiers, the Seekers, and the Schemers. And the Schemers. Which is really fascinating. Each one has a different focus. The Soldiers, and this is taken directly from him, traditionally charged combat and conflict-driven story mode. That's what the Soldiers are. This is kind of your standard D&D. Basically what happened with Mike Daggerhart's Village of Hamlet one-shot. That's what you're going to see for the most part. That's not to say that they're not going to be doing any role-playing. However, the Soldiers campaign is probably going to have the highest amount of combat encounters, because that's the things that they enjoy. The Seekers, and again, this is as close to a direct quote as I could get as I was frantically typing, and Brennan Lee Mulligan talks really fast. The Seekers are tied directly into the lore, cosmology, magic, big questions around problems facing this universe that are in the weave between divinity and arcane, demons, fairies, magic. So Seekers is going to be very lore-based, very role-play heavy, very kind of lore dump heavy, where they're going to be looking for answers to questions. Doesn't mean that they're never going to have combat. You can't really run a D&D campaign without combat because so much of the classes are dedicated to combat. But your Seeker's adventures are probably going to be a lot more exploration based and discovery based. And then the third group is the Schemers. And again, direct quote, or as close to direct as I can get. Intrigue, skullduggery, espionage, relationships with each other's, machinations of power. This is the politics campaign as far as I can tell. And I've mentioned this before. I am a massive fan of politics in tabletop RPG. And no, that does not mean, red state, blue state, liberal versus conservative type bullshit. No, I mean dealing with backdoor arrangements, gentlemen's agreements, political machinations that make decisions based entirely on, who's in power and who has the quote unquote real power as opposed to the symbolic power. Like that stuff is really, really fun. It's a pain in the ass to write. And I know because I've done campaigns where I've tried to do some political machinations, and it's hard to do, especially if your players are not really geared towards that style of storytelling. So those are going to be really, really cool, interesting things. So yeah, there's going to eventually be 3 parties, and because they're all going to not only exist in the same world at the same time, but are going to be adventuring at the same time, there's a good chance that the parties are going to intermingle on a fairly regular basis. I don't know how often that's going to be, but it is heavily implied that that's something that can happen. And it's basically, well, if you want to be more combat oriented, I'm going to hop over to the soldiers table for a little bit, and then this and that. And so no one, I don't think anyone is going to be kind of stuck into, well, you're a soldier. It doesn't matter that you want to deal with all the, backstabbing that's happening over with the Schemers. You're a soldier, so you have to fight. I think they're going to allow table hopping and stuff like that. The next thing that Brennan talks about is the idea of, what is this fantasy storytelling? And he says there are 5 core concepts of fantasy storytelling that he's going to focus on. Fun fact, he only lists 4. I think one of these groups is multiple. He counted it as multiple groups, and I don't know which one. But the 5 concepts of storytelling are swords, family, magic, and kissing. And then some mystery 5th one, because what happens in the video is he starts with swords, and they show a picture of him, and he counts on his first finger. Swords, and then they cut away to other images and that. Then they cut back to him, and he goes, family, and then they cut away and talk about things. They come back to him, and he goes, magic, and he does stuff there, and then they cut back to him, and he goes to his 5th finger for kissing, and just completely skips one of his fingers. So I think something in there is multiple things, and I don't know which one it is. Anyway, so swords is exactly that. That's the combat, that's weapons and stuff like that. Family is the connections between the characters and relationships and the things like that. That idea of found family that has become so popular recently, that is really, really important. Magic, I mean, that's kind of a big aspect of fantasy in general, is there's some sort of magical quality, whether it's soft magic or hard magic, it's there. And then kissing, and according to Brennan, kissing is exactly that, kissing. People like kissing. So there's going to be some romance in there, which again, every single Critical Role campaign has had at least one romance. Campaign 1 actually had 2. You had Percy and Vexalia, and then Keyleth and Vax were in there. And technically Keyleth and Gilmore, or not Keyleth, Vax and Gilmore was kind of a subplot. Then you also had, you technically had Keyleth and Cash, and then you had Cash and Mary Elizabeth's character that I can't remember her name right now. So romance was actually pretty big in the first campaign. The second campaign, you technically had Vath and her husband, although that as its own other thing. But the big one was between Jester and Ford. Oh, and then also Bo and Yasha. Completely forgot about Bo and Yasha because they got together after I stopped watching Campaign 2. But yeah, Bo and Yasha. So that was that. Then Campaign 3, I've got no fucking clue. I did not watch Campaign 3. I know Laudna and Laura's character, that I can't remember her name, got together. I have no idea if there's anything else in there other than Chetney was a horn dog. And Ashley's character was just very open sexually in general. So yeah, romance has been a thing with Critical Role the entire time. It's not a surprise it's going to be in here if anyone's getting butthurt about that. Again, most people are just getting butthurt because it's like, well, they have no confidence in Daggerheart. No, I'm going to make a video about Daggerheart and why what people think about it is so wrong as far as like how popular it is, but that's another video. So yeah, that in and of itself, fascinating. Is interesting to see how Brennan kind of views this. So yeah. The next 3 points I have here all have to do with the story itself. Basically, as far as I was able to tell, this is a world that was created and populated by these deities. They created mortal races, and I think they helped create the world itself. However, there was an event that happened where the gods decided to make a decision that was best for the gods at the expense of the mortal races. And in response to that, the mortal races said, hey, if you guys are together, then we're together. And so the mortal races banded together, and they actually fought a war with the deities that ended up with the deities losing and dying. And that was 70 years ago. So for the current campaign, they're basically dealing with a world without deities. One of my favorite campaign settings is a world without deities. That is Dark Sun. And they kind of have similar themes. According to Brennan, magic is wild because there's no god or goddess of magic that's kind of making sure all the rules are followed and making sure, like in the Forgotten Realms and in D&D in general, there's this thing called the Weave. And that's what kind of runs magic. And that's what you kind of dial into whenever you cast spells. And each different kind of magic interacts with the Weave in a slightly different way. But it all interacts with the Weave. So now that there is no deity of magic, whatever kind of connects magic together no longer has somebody at the helm. And so magic in and of itself works in really weird ways. Also things like the afterlife. There's always a god or goddess of death that shuffles. There's no one doing that job right now. So people dying don't work the way that they have for the entire existence of this world. So those are some of the things that you're going to be dealing with. Like the big themes for this campaign, according to Brennan Lee Mulligan, are mortals and deities and their relationships with each other. Might we see new deities show up? Possibly. Might we see the world kind of go off into a Dark Sun style world where without the gods things go hurl bad? Possibly. We don't know. But it's an interesting idea, and it's definitely different than Critical Role. Like, I mean, if you want to look at Campaign 3, slight spoilers for Campaign 3, like there was a subplot of how are the gods really all that good? Are they really doing that much for the world, or do we even really need them? But and it was one of the kind of underwhelming aspects of Campaign 3. Their opinion on the gods kind of changed based on what the narrative required. Like sometimes they're like, yeah, kill the gods, they all suck. And then other times they're like, no, the gods are amazing. We need to protect all of them all the time. The world can't exist without gods. And at the end of Campaign 3, Exandria, effectively all of Exandria's deities took mortal form. which again is not an uncommon thing in fantasy in general. I mean, if we look at Lord of the Rings, the Maiar, I think that's what they were called. I mix up the names, but basically all the wizards like Saruman and Gandalf, those are all kind of demigods. They work directly for the gods of the world, and Sauron himself is effectively a god that took a mortal form. And then if we look at Forgotten Realms, there's an entire period called the Time of Troubles, where the gods were basically forced to take mortal form, and that was one of it was actually where we lost one of the goddesses of magic. Yeah, it's not a crazy thing for the gods to be forced to take mortal forms. And that's where we left Exandria, and now we're going to a world that the gods didn't take normal form. They were literally killed by the humans. There's a great quote. I'm going to see if I can find it. This is one of my favorite quotes from Star Trek Deep Space Nine. Kira is, if I remember correctly in the scene, Kira is talking about the prophets, which are the deities of the Bajoran people. And she makes kind of an offhand comment about Klingon gods, and Worf's response is, "Our gods are dead. Ancient Klingon warriors slew them a millennia ago. They were more trouble than they were worth." And it's one of my favorite things ever, because it gives you such an amazing insight into the culture of Klingons. It's the idea of, a lot of people kind of mischaracterize Klingons as, oh, they just love killing stuff. No, they are effectively soldiers, if we're talking about the three different groups. When they run into conflict, and storytelling in general is driven by conflict. Life is driven by conflict. When they see conflict, when they need to make change in their world, they take up weapons and make that change. And when the gods were doing things that they didn't like, they fixed it. They said, you guys are going to do things that aren't good for us? Well, then we're going to fix that. And that's effectively what it sounds like happened here, was the gods did something to piss off mortals, and mortals went, listen, you want to go? Let's go. I'm good. Let's do this. And the gods got spanked. So that in and of itself, I think is really, really interesting. So the next point that he made, that I referenced a little bit earlier, Perkins and Crawford are working on the campaign. Now, I don't think they are directly writing anything, but Brennan mentioned that he's like, yeah, the guys that make the books, I have them on speed dial. I can just call them. So he has been able to talk, as far as we can tell, he has been able to talk with Perkins and Crawford for help in world building, for help in game design and the things like that, which is a massive, massive deal. This isn't to say that Brennan doesn't understand game design or anything. I mean, look at the nonsense that he's created for Dropout. He has built his own systems. He constantly homebrews. Like, the majority of the stuff that he runs is homebrewed in some way, shape, or form. The vast majority. So it's not that he doesn't understand, but Perkins and Crawford are uniquely gifted and skilled due to the fact that, again, Perkins had been working for Dungeons and Dragons for almost 30 years. Crawford was a little under 20. They have been running games longer than Brennan has been playing them, and Brennan started when he was very, very young. I actually don't know how old Brennan... I'll look that up real quick. I have no idea how old Brennan Lee Mulligan is. $37. Oh, wow. He's my age. Wow, we were born like a couple months apart. That's hilarious. He's apparently a January baby, and I'm a March baby. So yeah. If we go back 30 years ago, he was 7 years old. And if I remember correctly, Perkins wasn't working there 30 years ago, but it was like 25, 28, something like that. So when Brennan first started playing Dungeons and Dragons, Perkins was already working for Dungeons and Dragons. And by the time he started taking it seriously, which wasn't until his very late 20s to early 30s, Perkins had already been doing this for over a decade, and so had Crawford. So there's a difference between, being as knowledgeable and skilled as Brennan is, and then comparing him to someone like Perkins or Crawford. They're in two different categories. And so the fact that he gets to kind of lean on them when he needs the help is pretty freaking amazing. And it probably means we're going to have some just phenomenally interesting stuff happening for Campaign 4, as far as mechanics are concerned, as far as storytelling and world building is concerned. Like, Mercer is fantastic in what he does, and so is Brennan. But being able to combine Brennan Lee Mulligan, Matthew Mercer, Chris Perkins, and Jeremy Crawford, I mean, you have a dream team there for some pretty amazing stuff. The final thing they mentioned is tonight, Thursday the 21st, they're going to be doing a fireside chat on Twitch where Brennan and Mercer are going to break down what is a West Marches campaign. So, if you want to watch that, I believe it's going to be at the regular Critical Role time, which is 9 p.m. Central. I think it's, 7 p.m. Pacific time? Go over to the Critical Role Twitch channel and watch that, because, again, even if you don't like Critical Role, you're like, oh, God, I guess that... This is not Critical Role you're going to be watching tonight. It's two extremely skilled dungeon masters that are going to be talking about probably one of the most groundbreaking campaign styles to ever have been developed as a homebrew system. Like, the West Marches campaign really did change adventuring and playing TTRPGs in general, and it's still a phenomenally great system to have. And seeing Mercer and Brennan's take on it is going to be really, really cool. So definitely tune into that if you can. And then they reiterate October 2nd is the premiere, which is just barely over a month away. We only have 2 weeks left of September, and then it is the first Thursday, or we only have 2 weeks left of August, and then it is the first Thursday. It's the second day of October. So this is going to happen really, really quick. I'm guessing that we are going to get some character introductions before the game actually goes live on the 2nd. I don't think the first time we meet the characters is going to be on the premiere. But they might save everything for the premiere. I don't know. I think with that many players, it would I don't think it would work super well. And I think from a marketing standpoint, this is the other thing I found was kind of interesting about this, is from a marketing standpoint, doing a massive drop of all your promotional materials a month and a half before it goes live is a weird thing to do. Generally, you want to kind of drip feed your marketing stuff to get people excited. And thus far, we've had the announcement trailer, which told us nothing, and then this, which told us almost everything. So I think we're probably going to get introductions to the characters slowly as it gets closer. Again, I might be wrong. They might just introduce all the characters then. I don't know. But I think from a marketing standpoint, it would work better if they would at least introduce a few of the characters before everything goes live on the 2nd. So yeah. Like I said, really, really big, interesting news. Crushing for Daggerheart fans. Like I said, I think tomorrow's video, and I haven't, if anyone is wondering about the Mega Man X Cypher System game, I haven't forgot about that. It's just that's basically going to be my, if I have nothing else to talk about, those will be my daily vlogs. And I have a lot to talk about right now. So I will get back to those as soon as news dies down. But yeah, a lot of people in the Daggerheart subreddit are like feeling betrayed. And like I said, tomorrow's video, which I may record directly after this, is just going to be me talking about the truth about how popular Daggerheart is. Yeah. Anyway, or my guess as to how popular Daggerheart really is. So yeah. Anyway, interested to hear from you guys. First of all, with the D&D announcement, any people here massively shocked that it's going to be D&D? Any people are kind of like me and going, yeah, I kind of knew. Like I said, I was fairly certain it was going to be D&D, but there was, in the back of my head, I was like, it might be something else. It might be something else. And so when they finally said D&D, I literally said out loud, good. I really didn't want it to be something that wasn't D&D. But yeah, are you guys surprised on the D&D announcement? Do you think it was inevitable? Love to hear your thoughts on that. And then anything else in here? Are you just surprised at the crazy large cast, the West Marches style, the plot that they've revealed? Let me know in the comments down below. Otherwise, again, it's all for me today, and I will see you guys next time. All right? Bye-bye.